Morgan, do you
Yeah,
have
I
the
think so.
record on? Or if you need to put it on?
Yeah, I just started the recording.
Okay, perfect. So just want to welcome everybody to the um, Ending the HIV Epidemic Advisory Council for June 1st. Our first agenda item um, is just going ahead and approving the minutes from the last meeting, but we do not have a quorum, so we will postpone that as it stands right now and maybe revisit those at the end for any suggestions, comments, or amendments to the minutes for last month, or last meeting rather. I'll just kick it over to you, Morgan, for any work group updates.
Sure. And so the U equals U task force met um, a couple weeks ago or last week, but so we've wrapped up the first round of the U equals U ambassador campaign and are starting the second round. And in the second round, we actually have 4 ambassadors. 2 new ones are joining the campaign, and they'll be doing the same thing, like doing monthly posts on their social media from June to September. And we were able to get an extension on the grant from New York City Prep that's funding the campaign. And so that grant will now end in December. And so from about October to December, the group's going to be focusing on really marketing the campaign and just helping it become more widespread throughout Davidson County. But that has been going really well, and we've had some really great ambassadors, so I'm very happy about that. The prevention work group is currently working on a PrEP access client study. Um, they've been talking about it for a couple of months now, and in our last meeting, we went through the proposal form to kind of just hammer out the specifics. And there, I think they'll continue to work on that. And the next step will be looking for funding for the project. So yeah. And then the equity work group updates that I got from Jamie. They are still working on the equity lens and on piloting it, but they applied for actually, let me check that. They applied or they submitted a grant proposal for VUMC's Center for Health Services Research Health Program. And so they're hoping to get funding to officially pilot the equity lens they've been working on. And then Dr. Brown sent me some updates for the Trauma Informed Care and Cultural Humility group. And so they are that the groups has begun trauma-informed care evaluation with Streetworks, Meharry, Nashville Cares, and Vanderbilt. And the evaluation includes engaging patients and clients at each institution to gain their perspective of their experience at these institutions. And they're going to use the findings for implementation. They've also firmed up the approach and funding for their statewide trauma-informed coordinating team, which will be a partnership between Meharry's Social Determinants of Health Center, Eastern Tennessee State University, and Tennessee Department of Health. I think Dr. Brown will be presenting findings on resilient HIV care next week, and the Research Centers for Minority Institutions meeting, and then she'll be presenting findings on burnout among HIV care providers in Nashville and Stockholm at the AIDS Impact Conference on June 8th. So a lot happening with that subcommittee. Yeah, those are all the work group updates for now. And Dash isn't here, so we can move on to the letter, although I'm not sure how much we can do with that today either. But anyway, Claire.
Yeah, so basically, we to give everyone sort of a broad overview, we've been talking about this letter since we got the news in, gosh, I want to say March, about the funding cuts from that the governor's office had declined from the CDC. And, we drafted a letter to the commissioner about our disapproval of this move. And since then, it seems like every time we've met, there have been new things that have come out in the news that sort of changed the landscape and changed the way we were thinking about responding to this. And now we now know that the CDC is still going to be providing some, not all, of the original funding amount to United Way. And also we know that the state is going to be providing some HIV prevention funds as well. So at this point, we're just not sure what the message we want to send is, whether there is a message we as a council need to send. I think just personally, I'm still pretty unclear on what's happening and who's receiving funding. I just haven't heard a lot about how the funding is going to shake out, whether there are strings attached to funding that's coming from the state, whether all the organizations that were previously funded are going to continue to be funded. So I still have a lot of questions that it seems like we would probably need to be able to answer before sending any official communication about our position. So unfortunately, we don't have a lot of the council here today to talk about this, but we do have Dr. Shaw Kai Kai and Dr. Tai on today. So if either of you have any information, I think we would love to hear if there's anything that you may have heard that might help us figure out what our next steps are.
Hi, this is Tai. I'm still unclear also about the message. I did hear, as you did, that there were some funds coming through, but that's not clear yet. And neither is it clear whether those agencies can subcontract. They're not using that word, but basically that's what it will be. But it's not clear yet. And I know that we're still waiting for some answers. So unfortunately, I can't add too much clarification to what you've already said. It's not clear at all.
And Tai, do you know if CARES, I mean, because my understanding was that the funds were going to stop May 31st, and then June 1st, people would have to figure out something else. So do you know if CARES is receiving funds right now for?
I did hear that we could be receiving funds, but it's a lot of lack of a better word, strings attached. And that's what we're not clear on, what those strings are, what we're expected to do. I think that we would be expected, or any agency that receive funds would be expected to help other agencies, but they're not using the word some subcontract, but that's basically what it is. So it's really not clear at all, how it's all going to unfold.
Gotcha. Well, that's frustrating.
Yes.
Dr. Shaw Kai Kai, do you have any updates or anything that you may have heard that might help clarify things? I know this is probably not something that Metro is quite as involved in, but. And if you're speaking, we can't hear you. So I don't know. I wonder if maybe we just, since we have such low turnout today, if we need to take this conversation online. Oh, there you are, Dr. Shakai Kai.
Am I? I'm so sorry. I had to step away to help another doctor.
Oh,
I think
that's
I
okay.
texted someone, so I apologize. I'm just
No,
going.
that's all right. We were just talking about the funding cuts from the CDC and what is happening with that, whether there's how the funding that CDC is giving United Way is going to work, and how the funding that the state has decided to allocate for HIV prevention is going to work, and we just don't really know what that looks like right now. Just wondering if you've heard anything, if there's anything you know that might clarify things at all.
I don't know anything more than Dr. Jones saying that some health departments will receive more funding than previous years, depending on, I guess, whatever formula they're using. But that was all that we have heard. The most recent budget that was sent was just up to the current contract year, and so I don't know what the funding for us looks like for this upcoming fiscal year that should start July.
Gotcha. Well, in that case, I don't know that there's much we can do in terms of drafting a new response. Though maybe there's some work we can do offline and get information from some of the sort of key stakeholders who might know a little bit more about where the funds are going or what strings are attached to those funds. But for now, I'm not sure that there is a whole lot more we can do on this topic at the moment. Maybe if more people were here, we would be able to get some more info, but it's very strange. It feels like everyone's really sort of in the dark, and that's just so odd to me. But here we are. So in that case, this is going to be a very short meeting, I think. So one thing, I think really the last thing we were planning to do today, just making sure Dash hasn't logged in, but I did want to announce that I'll be going on maternity leave in July. So, and my term is up at the end of this year, so it sort of makes sense to maybe just go ahead and nominate a new co-chair in my place. And Dr. Bullock, I'll let you speak for yourself.
Thanks, Claire. Thanks everybody for joining us. Yeah, so Claire's obviously gonna roll out of her co-chair position at the end of the year, but a little bit sooner than that with maternity leave. So this is our second term. So I feel like it's been 4 years, Claire. I think so. So with that being said, at the end of my term, I will not be renewing my term as well. And so we'll leave a clean slate for 2 new members to serve as co-chairs. There are some kind of nuances around the co-chairs being selected. Each of the co-chair terms are 2 years. And so we do take nominations from the council itself. These can be via email. We don't have a formal form, but I think we did at some point have a form for nomination of committee members. So Morgan, I think we could probably utilize that as well. We can send this out in an email. But the co-chair terms are 2 years. We can just send our nominations either through the email or through that form. And then we'll vote on those during our August meeting There are some nuances in the bylaws. With that being said, one co-chair does have to be governmental and the other doesn't have to be, but a burden on governmental as well. So if you want to pull that up, Morgan, it's pretty simple. It's pretty quick. It just essentially boils down to that. So just kind of thinking around who you guys would like to nominate for those roles, or I think you could even potentially nominate yourself if you felt like that was a reasonable ask. And then within that nomination, designate whether they would be governmental or non-governmental as well. Are you sharing, Morgan?
Yeah, can everyone see this? It's section
Yep.
4. Okay.
And when does
So-
which month does the term end?
So it really ends at the beginning. So it would end in December because I feel like we got reappointed because we originally started in January, but we were nominated towards the end of the year because I think if everybody remembers correctly, we were actually the first. So we came out of the appointment from the mayor's office. So it would end, or it would start for January actually.
So I think probably what'll happen next is we'll need to send something out to the whole council, sort of to just solicit some nominations from everybody and vote at the next meeting, I suppose. So be thinking about who you'd like to be your next co-chairs.
And Morgan, I think when we send this out, I think you can decide when we send it out if you want to send it right following this, or maybe, and I don't know if everybody's seen this, I think Morgan did put in an email the agenda that this was going to be her last meeting as she's rolling out at June 9th. But I don't know if you want to have that done before you go, or if you want to turn that over to your replacement. I don't know which would be easier so that emails don't get mixed up in the meantime. I think either way is fine. However, I just want to make sure people don't get confused. Are there any questions around nominations or co-chair positions at all? Okay. With that being said, I'd just like to open the floor for any announcements that anybody has.
So like Dr. Bullock just said, this is my last meeting, and my supervisor, Lillian, is on the call or on this meeting right now, and she will be stepping in to take care of things until we have a new person in place in this position. And so I will send out the call for nominations and I'll copy Lillian on it and just specify that, after June 9th, the vote should go to her and to you two also, to the two co-chairs.
So with that being said, we do want to let Morgan know how much we greatly appreciate her time with us. We know at times it hasn't been easy, but thanks so much for all you've done for both myself and Claire and all of the council as well. We wish you best in your new endeavors. Are you staying in Nashville or are you leaving Nashville?
I'm staying in Nashville. Yeah.
Well, we will bump into you, but anytime you need anything, I think anybody would be more than willing to help out. And just thank you again. I know this was a really short meeting, but we'll give everybody a little bit of time back in their day. We can always use that. Our next meeting will be August 3rd from 2 to 3:30. And Claire, will you be on maternity leave then as well?
What was the date?
August 3rd.
August 3rd.
Most likely. I'm due July 25th, so hopefully I'm not still pregnant by that time.
Well, if you're not, maybe we can drag you back for our last meeting just to say bye. But for those who won't be able to, we also want to really just thank Claire as well for everything she's done. It's been definitely a lift, and we just greatly appreciate you. You've been great to work with. So.
Yeah,
Thanks.
you, Morgan and Deanne, you've both been really great to work with, and yeah, just thank you everyone for letting me be your co-chair for the past 4 years. Really an honor.
Absolutely. All right. If nobody has anything else, we'll follow up with a few emails. If there's any questions, feel free to email us. And everybody have a great rest of the day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Take care,
you.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye everyone.